So it's got cover in the back, rain cover in case it's raining out here in the wide open clear cuts. So I think I found the only place you're gonna kill this buck. Yeah, that pine tree is blocking, so I could do that, and that would be perfect. There you go, when I kill him this year right there. Can't say it was luck. It is April 29th. I'm back out here in the Big Woods public land. I did a big ridge system last time I was out, but today we're going in the swamps. We're looking for knobs between the swamps and how they connect, maybe to another ridge system, but mainly focusing today around where I know food sources are. But we're also gonna go back to areas probably people never go, because if you ever scouted swamps, no one likes them. So we have a vast system of swamps, and in between all these swamps, I marked out probably 30 pins over a couple square miles here. I probably won't get to all of it today, because if you've ever scouted swamps, nothing ever goes as planned. It's usually a mess. But we got to this first knob here. I'm trying to hide my bike in the bushes, and on this first knob here, it's like a clear cut area. And up on top was a doe silhouetted who just blew out of here. But we literally just started, first stop, first pin, and we already have does. So we're gonna go up into this knob. Based on what I scouted, there's swamps all throughout this, but it looks like based on terrain, there's only one way to get back into this remote little area that is kind of like a bowl with knobs around it and surrounded by swamps and endless brush. But if there's clear cuts like this, if they extend back even a little bit, that means there's gonna be preferred browse here in October. So I'm expecting that the bucks will be bedded on the back ones. They look perfect for bucks. Hopefully no one steals my bike, because I want to get a lot done today. And we're getting a bunch of doe droppings already getting in here. But as you can see, it's a mess. But where that doe was up near this one tree up here. People don't want to go in this stuff because look at nothing but ankle breakers in the snow. This is treacherous. When it comes to all this thick stuff here, people don't want to go through this. But it's also why the deer love it, and because there's so much exposure from the sun, it gives preferred browse. And being on this little knob here, I can literally see the road that I just biked in on, that she obviously see me. Now I could barely see her, but up here where she is, it's literally, here I'll show you, it's wide open. Now this definitely looks like a primary doe bedding. There's the road there. There's a bed right here in a little dipped out area that she can see the road and barely her head sticking over. And you got another bed right here against the back of this rock. Usually does will bed in a circle pattern. So you got one there, and I bet you there's gonna be beds up and around here of other does. But this is not the knob I am after. We're gonna keep pushing through, but this is good to keep in mind, because when you come in later during the rut, you can check this knob, and if you bump a doe up with a giant buck on her, all you have to do is come back the next morning and sit on this bed, and more than likely that doe's gonna come back and use the same bed, and guess who's gonna be with her? So this place I wanted to check quickly might turn out to be one of the best spots I have this year, because everything is clear cut. Now I don't know how far, because I gotta go a ways yet to get where I plan to go, but this is literally doe haven. And being as thick as it is here, oh man, the bucks are gonna be crazy in here. You can see there's very defined trails going through here. And that's the knob I just came from. There's a big scrape right here, and this is beat the crap. This is very much, could be a primary scrape, because it looks like they're still using it. There's doe droppings all over this, and it goes straight up to that knob. This is the only way they can get to that knob. And it cuts down across there. It doesn't really look like they're going across here, so it looks like they're probably gonna cut across here and get to a center point down there. So I'm not gonna put a camera here yet, but this is a place to keep in mind. Not even to the top of the knob yet. We got a bed here, and that's the knob I just came from. That primary scrape was like right here, and the trail looped around here, came across this nasty stuff, and it goes straight up through here, and we should be able to find tons of doe sign up here, maybe another primary scrape. We're not finding buck sign. We probably won't. There's just not as much competition up here in the big woods, so you have to go off your prior knowledge and use your gut. The best thing to do is time in the woods. This area obviously is loaded with deer for a while, and it's clear cut, so you can hear and see everything up here. So for instance, if I went up that tree there and hunted, I'd be able to tell what's moving up there, what's moving over here, and what's moving back there. The only issue is getting in here. Now the other important thing too is when you're scouting these places and you find a place that is huntable, you need to, while you're there before hunting season, figure out how you're going to hunt it. What tree, what wind, how are you going to access it? Because you don't want to be in here on the day you're hunting roaming around putting your scent everywhere. You can pretty much take any tree, but we also got to worry about being seen. So the idea might be that we sneak in this swamp here, even though it's hell, maybe find a way in, or just forget it. If we bump does, they get bumped all the time there. Push into the barrier of where we're going, where I'm expecting to find buck sign, and figure out where we're gonna hunt there, because if we bump a couple does going in, it's not gonna matter. They get bumped all the time out here. You gotta be bumping deer to get on the big bucks. And if we have to bump 2 does to get to the exact tree we need to get to shoot that buck who walks maybe 100 yards from his thick ass bedding spot, then that's what you gotta do. And again, tons of doe sign up here. More doe sign. This is loaded, and that's because there's mainly one trail getting through here, which it might not look like a trail, but as you can see, it's going to go up to here. That's a knob. They're probably mainly bedding up around this here, but we're getting over to that area up there, which I think we got to go over that, and then we're in the where we want to be. I think that's where a big buck would be. Yeah, I'm already seeing a problem where here's the one knob I was talking about, and then you can barely see it on this side. It wraps around and it makes this big bowl right in here, which is where that buck's gonna wanna come down to at night. So they're gonna come off this knob, whatever the wind is, and just hole up in there. And then they'll work down to exactly where I'm talking about right here, this knob here. But the issue I'm finding is, how the hell am I gonna get in here without being seen? For instance, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get close enough up there to where that big buck, if he's back there, is gonna drop down and hole up. But they do move a lot in the big woods, as long as they don't have a reason to hole up. And if I can't get close enough, it might be one of those things where I use the tree as cover and walk straight to the tree so nothing behind it can see me. And you can see how this tree splits in a bunch of different ways. I could probably get my stand in between there. So if I use and sneak in the back and climb up and set up inside this tree, I should be literally, I'll never get seen unless I get winded. But again, you want to be checking how you're gonna hunt this area as you're scouting it. Man, it's a mess in here. This would probably be how my first time out I would set up, based on if I don't know exactly what's going on or how far back they are. Maybe they're sitting close. If I can get to this tree and hunt it, I'll know everything about this area in one hunt if he's here. But if I put a trail camera on a tree here looking, I might not learn anything. But one hunt, I can see all this and hear all of this, because they're not gonna be quiet in this stuff. There's no way. If I was set up there and I saw him come through here, then all I would have to do is move my setup to these trees here and shoot him there. So I just pushed through this, but I had a question for you guys. What do you think's the best buck sign you could find to prove that there's bucks in the area you're trying to hunt? Would it be a rub, a scrape, a buck crap, or my favorite, you just find sheds? We have our first shed. That's nothing impressive, but I'm hoping we find a big shed back there. That'd be great. So if we look here, there's a bed right in here, but that big tree I was talking about, it's kind of hidden behind this one here, but it's right there. So I said I could sneak in the back of that and keep the tree between me and the knob and climb in between the branches so I can't be seen. Everything else can be seen from this one bed here. As much as I would love to, I don't think I'm gonna put a camera back here. Even if I find the best sign possible, I'll put it back on that primary scrape that I found. Because in order for me to check that camera, and with that thing sitting there disturbing them, if anything, it's gonna hurt me. And it doesn't matter if I get to see the pictures because I ruined the place getting in. So we're gonna check that primary scrape out again on the way out. We're refreshing it and maybe put the camera there, unless for some reason I find something mega here that I would change my mind. But I need to be able to use this camera to my advantage, and to be able to check that primary scrape at the exit without affecting any of this except maybe bumping that one doe. I can come here, check that camera, and see what's in the area. If I can draw them in, or maybe come in closer to season and freshen it up with some like preorbital gland and some interdigital gland stuff, and fire those bucks up, and they'll come. I've had it where you put a mock scrape up here, almost every time they come in the same day because they're pissed off of some intruder in their area. Top the knob now, there's that far knob I was talking about, and it kind of stays high. You see a big ridge over there, but that's on the other side of a gigantic swamp that's on the other side of this. Probably a disaster. So my gut's telling me that this further back in, at least in where I'm at right now, is just not the spot. Now there's a gradual ridge that runs out here all the way out that way, which takes you to more hunting pressure, and it gets thicker in here, but it just seems no reason for them to be back here. Like there's no purpose. a lot less security cover. Now you can see where this swamp down here is just nasty, but it looks like there might be a path through it, so I might check that, but I just don't have the feeling here. And there's that far ridge I was talking about, and I do have a pin on the back side of that, but I think I'd rather access that from a different way because it's gonna take forever to come this way to get through all the, and I just blow out everything on the way in. There's a knob up here I want to check yet, and then we'll work back, and then we'll write this off, but it seems closer to the road is where they all are. Like as if they're using it at bedding to go across the road to the other food sources. This is that really mess of stuff that I came across the other side before, and I went out there and I said, my gut's just not telling me to go out that way. It just gets more open. There isn't as much terrain difference, no difference in cover. It's just wide open, kind of dead. But as soon as I get back into this stuff, it's thicker. It's got more undergrowth coming up. I'm finding more doe sign already. And I have a feeling I'm gonna find some good stuff up there. I got a little hemlock there, it gets thicker. This is instantly getting better here. That's where I just came up, it was thick, but it is turning into bedding really fast. You got these very tight corridors going through. And it leads back to where that other swamp was I was telling you about that I don't think anything's using, and then it's all bare bones all throughout here. So this should be a very thick spine coming across here. We should see some bedding. So it looks like maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, maybe going into 6 knobs up here that they primarily use. Might bump another deer because we haven't been up over this skyline yet. We got some does that just jumped up. They were in the middle of this thick stuff below me here. She's right on the edge of that tree. There she goes. Just 2 does working their way out. I don't even know if they're in camera. The sun is blinding me. But like I said, I just had a better feeling about this area. It's just really thick up in here, and it's got very differing terrain. And they could have been bedded here and moved out, but when I saw them, they were down in this thick stuff right here, and they just stood up and went out there. So it might have been the deer bumped earlier came over here and bedded down, because this might be their secondary bedding. And then they just saw me again, so they got up and moved again. But it's just so much better over here as far as being cover. They can see a lot, and while that looks more open, that has a lot more vertical cover going on instead of it all laying down. Yeah, and you can see the pine starting up there because that's where that swamp gets really thick. And it looks like we might have a designated traveler out through here, but they went out around the left side of the swamp, so they'll probably work this all the way out. They don't want to leave the cover. Well, those does went up that way, up on this knob. You can see there's a nice established bed right there. Doesn't look like it's been used in a while. There's no buck crap in it. I don't see any rubs nearby to distinguish it's a buck bed, but it could be. You can see it just sits right here and they drop right down in. It's pretty much like a field for them down here. It's open. They can feed on the browse coming up. And there's that. I bet you I'll find some more satellite beds here of does too. I'm gonna see if there's a way to get out here between that swamp and this impenetrable brush, because over here's the tree that I said I would set up in to check the place out. And then what I'm thinking, I gotta go back actually and set up that camera I just remembered. So maybe I'll find a way to cut across this brush. There should be at least a tiny trail I can push through. Doesn't matter how many cameras I put out in this area. The only way for me to actually learn it is just to be out here hunting. And again, that knob I was just on, where there's guaranteed does and there's that bed, and I found another bed up there. A buck could still use those, even though the does are using them all the time. Or he can be in the same general area. If they want to use this knob, they're gonna be on the knob. So you wanna be able to figure out how you would hunt this. So, on the other side of this knob, which I'll probably go through to get to that scrape, other side of that knob and is that glassing tree I picked out. So then if I had to hunt this place and he's up on this knob watching that backside using the wind, I could get a just off wind, sneak just over this knob and stay in this cover. And as long as I take my time and be quiet, it looks like I can get down through here and back up around here. But there is a hardcore trail coming down here. And obviously there's a trail going down the other side. Now, if I was a buck, I would stick to this hardcore trail and go up through these brushy knobs or go up through the way I just came, which would explain why you're getting, I found those shed over there on the other side of this, on the other side of that knob is where I found the shed. And it would explain where they're coming from if he was bedding here. So then if I could get into this spot here and get up the back side of this tree, which is a huge freaking tree. I don't even know if I'd have to like tie 2 straps together to get around that trunk. But I could get up this tree and set up on the back of it. And if I had to, I could hunt from the ground, but that'd be awful. But if I could get up on the back of this and use this as cover, and then I could shoot the deer as he comes around the tree here without him seeing me. It's an option. I mean, I could always go down here and go up here, but it's a little more exposed. And when he comes up and he's glassing that hill, the last thing I want to see him to see is me looking like an idiot in this skinny little tree out here. But if he is bedding there, which is like maybe 80 to 100 yards on the other side where I found a big bed, then I could definitely use this tree, come up this side, even put the stand on this part here facing out, and then he wouldn't even be able to see me until he was already dead. And then from there, the thermals should suck down in, which is another example of what I was talking about with finding bulls, is if he comes down to this thick stuff here and sits, all these thermals are funneling right down into him. So if something's hiding over there, he'll be able to smell it. So we just got to kill him before he does that. So we found our first buck bed. Where I said that buck bed was bedded before was up there. The tree I picked out was right there. So then I made my way up through this little tiny little knob here. And then here's the impenetrable thick stuff here. We came from over here, and that glassing tree is just over there too. But we have ourselves our first guaranteed buck bed because there's actually a rub on the bed. There's a tiny little pine here, and you can see the does are using it too. So it's got cover in the back, rain cover in case it's raining out here in the wide open clear cuts. But it leads to that area there where I said I put a glassing stand. So, is that a rub on that, or is that dead? That's dead. But it might, I mean, for all we know, it's just little bucks using this, but a big buck could use this. But it's good to know that a buck is using this. So this could very well be a rut bed as well. But again, like I said, you have to get up in a tree in a good area where you're not going to blow everything out and learn where things are. You come piling through this stuff in hunting season, you're just screwed. So let's stumble our way across this stuff. And that, like I said, the impenetrable thick is right here. You cannot walk through this stuff, and it goes all the way out. But there's one little path at the edge of it to get up to where we were. So I think I found the only place you're gonna kill this buck if there's a big one bedded on that hemlock. Right here's that hemlock that he was bedded under. You can see everything down here. But the first thing that deer like to do when they get up from bed is go to water. And there's only one path here that's really bad and one path that goes around, but it all converges on this hardcore trail leading up to my glassing tree. But there's water coming out of this little swamp thicket, the impenetrable brush, and it runs all the way down through. So if I am going to kill this buck and there's a giant sitting right there, I gotta find a way to get where he's gonna come out here and drink water and kill him without him winding me. And it is hardcore trails, because this is the only way that you can get from the area I said was really good with does and where I found the shed and everything out here. The only way he can get from this bed to all of that is this trail. So I'm gonna figure out how to hunt this right now, because I would really like to shoot him here, not out here, because he's gonna get down to here and stand for probably 15 minutes. And then he's gonna walk over this water and drink. And likely, I would like to shoot him when he goes to the water, because he'll be distracted. And I don't want him to have to come to this top of this knob, because he's not gonna want to. Because he's gonna feel safe here. This is his safety spot. Unless he goes out the other way. But you can see it looks like an old scrape right here. It's probably his. Yeah, this scrape right here. Doesn't look like a primary, because it's very small, but I think the primary would be up there where most of the does are in those first couple knobs closer to the road. So I'm thinking to kill this buck, or a buck that's using this bed, because there's probably gonna be several bucks using that bed, is gonna be right here. Either on this scrape or on that water. And the way he would be bedding there, oh man, he could bed in 2 different winds. But he's gonna be looking this way, or down this way or that way. Like he's gonna be looking at that, and he's gonna keep the brush at his back over here. Oh. Man, it's gonna be tough. He could bet here in several wins just because of how it's set up. But we almost have to stay down here so the thermals suck us down. And doesn't make for very good climbing. The only other option I would have would be that marked tree right there, because I think that pine tree's in the way. Yeah, yeah, he's right there, and it's gonna be hard to sneak in here though. But I could get up that tree and use the pine tree as cover maybe. Yeah, that pine tree's blocking, so I could do that, and that would be perfect, but man, is that gonna be hard. I'll have to look through this a little bit, figure it out. Yeah, that definitely has to be the tree. There's no scrapes or rubs on there, but there is deer coming out from here. I didn't even realize this is a scrape right here next to the tree. There's a trail coming through here. There's a trail going out through there. You can see it weaving. But the main one's up here, coming out of the bed. Scrape, scrape all over. So that's definitely guaranteed buck bedding. And they're using it probably as a staging spot during the rut, because there's a doe knob up here, there's a doe knob back there, and then obviously all this stuff out here. So that's probably more likely a rut bed, but it still could be used all year round. There you go, when I kill him this year right there, can't say it was luck. Barely see the pine tree right there, that buck bed, but look at this coming through right next to this swamp where it's kind of choked down. It's extra thick cover. He's not sky aligned, and it's just beat down. He's just using this in and out every time, or he's going up on, he can still go up on the top too because the trails go up there, but this one is probably the main trail coming in just because it's in cover, coming through, and we're not far from the glassing tree. This comes right up to the glassing tree. Now we obviously see the trail coming around through here that I just came in on, and it wraps down through. What you saw was beat down, but they don't normally bed in swamps. The only time I ever saw a giant buck bedding in a swamp, it was because there was a doe, he was hiding in there. But more times than not, you'll see these paths going through at the edge of the swamp, where usually it's not as thick as the center. But what they're doing is they're using these swamps as a quick cutover, as a shortcut to get to the other side. So they'll get from this little trail on the side hill here over to there, and that can take them to another trail across. Instead of going through this stuff, what they'll do is find a shortcut. So the swamps are great because they always have water. Sometimes they have browse around them, but they're guaranteed back cover, and they also offer some shortcuts. And that's another barrier that trouble predators have to come through in order to get to the buck. People aren't coming back here, so this is why. So these swamps are great for finding how deer are moving, but also it has everything they need, especially when there's a clear cut directly behind it. So the bike's out there, and I was riding, I thought I saw something in the woods. We got our nice rub right here, really gouged out. And we're going into a little overlooked knob that's literally right next to the road. I can see the road right here at 40 yards. But again, we're just off the road here, and we got a good rub. It's a pretty big tree too. This place is a mess. Rocks, brush, but it looks like we got one defined trail squeezing between the cover here to get up to this knob. Same scenario as before, where you're getting up in these high covers where they can see a lot, but look how nasty this is. But you can see over by the birches, it looks a little more open. And you got a big tree right there, so I'm guessing there's gonna be a buck bed either by these birches or over by that big tree. But we're getting into a bunch of doe sign here on top, and you can see the beds here where it's all matted down. All the little ones here. There's another one over there. So the does are definitely using this. I thought that was the rub, but it's just a tree falling apart. Yeah, lots of doe sign here. So again, the does are using this, but is this a spot a big buck is gonna come? And that other knob I want to check out is over there, where it's clear cut to hell too, but it might be just like the other spot. So last place I want to check out for the day. It's getting pretty late already. It takes a long time to get through this stuff. We're gonna hold our gut here on this one and work out a little bit and try and find a way back around that's a little bit easier. Man, it's windy. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. I'm not getting big buck vibes here, but obviously that big rub was down on the underside of this, so he's probably wind checking this because he sure as hell did not want to go in here. Based on his travel, he was coming from over there, so there's a good chance maybe that other knob that looks a little less thick might be where he's bedding. and that's another pin on my map. So we've got 2 does here, close to where I want to go in to check a knob bedding, but they're literally just working the road, eating the fresh grass on the side. Especially in the spring when clover starts popping up, they'll be eating off these roads. So I came from this way, and there's a very defined trail coming up through the middle of this, all the way through here. I've been finding a lot of doe sign, and it's all leading and weaving to get up to this knob here. And it's a pretty big knob. It wraps all the way around to the right, but you can see it's starting to turn into hardwoods as well, which is perfect for buck beds because they like where it's the cover is changing, and they'll be on the edge. So if I can get up on this, I'll be able to see where maybe they dive into the woods or they come out this way. But usually when there's more than one thing happening, with thick in between us here down in the valley, and then there's another side hill up there of just thick stuff. But it's one of those places, again, like I said, you get in here, up this tree, say as high as you can, you'll be able to see all that side hill, which is extremely thick. So I'm on top of the one side of the knob. You can see it's just a mess out there. You can see the defined ridge on the other side, and it looks like it's pockets of open, and it's a lot greener over there than, well, I guess over here is a little green too, but this is where I just came through before, and it's really open. But I did find a doe bed right on this little tree here, watching over all of this. Sometimes it's really hard to find beds out here, especially because the ground is so hard, but this looks like it might be a bed. It's got the backing to it. It's pretty wide open. You can see all this stuff is moved out of the way. Look at all of this, and he's got where his head barely peeks over, looking at this other side of the knob here to the hardwoods, which I said he would probably want to be. So there's a good chance this actually is a bed. Now there's no rubs anywhere, but that's not uncommon out here. That's good to know. I'm gonna mark this as a possible, like a point of interest on my map. That's the thing, he could be bedded here on a wind. He could be bedded all the way over there on a wind. He could be a mile away on the other bed. We just gotta figure it out piece by piece.